Morning, students. It is yet another time. I hope you had a wonderful weekend. Today, we are going to look at phrase structure and clause structure. And after this, we shall be moving on to the sentence structure. All these are to assist us in the formation of our sentences and when we are to answer questions on all essay types as well as comprehension and summary passages. So today we're going to look, as I have said, at phrase structures and clause structure. My name remains Adenuga AOS. You're welcome on board. Phrase. Phrase is an incomplete stretch of grammar or what you refer to as a group of words that does not complete sense. It doesn't make complete meaning. Most often than not, what we regard as phrase may not contain finite verb. I'm saying this because there are instances when we look at what we normally refer to as verb phrase. And so the question may arise that if we have verb phrase, then how come that we say a phrase does not have verb? But what we're saying here is that what we regard as phrase, often than not, does not contain a final verb. The verb phrase is completely different from what we are looking at. We hope that we will be able to look at all this as well as the verb phrase in detail at some other time. The types of phrase structures that we have in English language include 1. The noun phrase. 2. The verb phrase, just as I have mentioned earlier. 3. The adjectival phrase. 4. The adverbial phrase. And 5. The prepositional phrase. Let's start with the noun phrase. The noun phrase is a stretch of grammar or a group of words with the noun or pronoun as its head word. That is, the most important word in that structure. I have given some examples here, and the noun phrases are all circled in red. Example 1. The students attend class lessons regularly. If we look at the sentence, we find out that we have the noun words that we have there, students and lessons. So what we look at here is we look at the words that are joined to the noun words. So when you pick there, which is a determiner, and the noun element there, students, you put the two together as modifier and head word. So we have what we call a noun phrase. Then the verb attend. After the verb, we have class, lessons. Class is a noun, but in this case, it is describing the type of lessons that we're talking about. So you put both class, which is a modifier here now, with the lessons together to form another noun phrase. And regularly will be regarded as an adverb. Again, we have sentence number 2. Example, the man stands by that great river. The man stands by that great river. Here we have the man as a noun phrase, then that great river as another noun phrase. But if we check carefully, that great river, which is another noun phrase there, is standing beside a prepositional word, by. So we're going to look at the functions of the noun phrase as we go along, but note this so that if you have any question, we'll be able to attend to your question. Sentence number three, example. Nobody likes COVID-19. Nobody likes COVID-19. Nobody is a pronoun and it is the noun phrase. Remember, we said that the noun phrase can be either a noun element or a pronoun that will stand there, being the head word of that particular sentence, of that particular stretch of grammar. So it should be regarded as noun phrase, whether it be noun or pronoun. The COVID-19 is the name of a disease that is prevalent at this particular time. So it's a universal accepted name for that particular disease. The full name is corona disease virus, but people call it COVID-19. So we're going to make use of that word COVID-19. Again, we have teachers are more important than doctors. Teachers are more important than doctors. We have teachers as the head word in that particular phrase structure. So we pick it as a noun phrase because it is a noun. And if you look through the remaining words there, the other noun that we have there is doctors. So the two are circled. So if you look at all the examples given, you will realize that all the noun phrases are circled in red. We will move from here to the next one. If you have question, please write down your question and forward to the teacher after the lesson. You can, on your own, as much as possible, try to write as many sentences with the noun phrase, underlining the noun phrase, that is identifying it, as many as possible, and you can forward such to the teacher to help you check through. Now let us look at the functions of noun, or what we call noun phrase. Remember that the noun is a naming word, a word that gives name to things, persons, animals, or such other things. So we call it a naming word. But when we say that it's a noun phrase, it means that it may be one word or more than one word, but void of a finite verb. And so, whether it be noun phrase, or whichever thing it may be, they have basically the same function. They perform the same duty in any stretch of grammar. So let us look at the functions of noun. One, a noun or noun phrase can function as a subject of a verb. And what is the subject of a verb? In those days, we used to say that the subject of a verb, or what you normally refer to as the subject of a sentence, is the performer of the action. However, in most cases, we realize that this definition may be faulty. And that is why we have now looked at it and we have tried to correct that particular definition. In passive voice or reported speeches, we realize that in most cases, the subject is no longer the performer of the action. I'll give you an example. In a sentence that is active, we say, Ayomiko breaks the bottle. Ayomiko breaks the bottle. If you look at the sentence, Ayomiko is the performer of the action, and the action is that of breaking, while the bottle suffers from the action. But in the passive voice, we have the sentence, the bottles were broken by Ayomiko. Here, the bottles become the subject. However, the bottles are not a performer because the bottles are not breaking themselves. So it's going to be a bit faulty if we say that the subject of a verb or the subject of a sentence is the performer of the action. However, note that the first function of a noun or noun phrase is that it acts as a subject of a verb. That is what the verb is talking about. I've given an example here. Lawbreakers are detained. Lawbreakers are detained. Lawbreakers is underlined, and that is, it comes before the verb and the sentence, which is her detained. The second example, the sentence we have is, the big man in that car is my uncle. The big man in that car is my uncle. The verb here is. And so we have underlined the big man in that car. These are the words coming together before the verb and the sentence. And the most important element there is the head word car. That is the big man. So here we have the big man. That's a man is the most important word there. And in that case, only trying to identify the person we are talking about. So let me just put it this way, that when you are able to identify the verb in the sentence, the number of verbs, maybe when we get to clause structure, we'll look at it critically. The number of verbs that you're able to mark will tell you the number of clause structures that you have, the number of ideas that you have in that particular stretch of grammar. And so when you are able to mark out the verb in the sentence, everything that comes before the verb in the sentence will be regarded as subject of the sentence or subject of the verb. Because a sentence can only be divided into two, the subject and the predicate. So as subject of a verb, I've given two examples. Lawbreakers are detained. The big man in that car is my uncle. If you have any question, please, you can forward your question to me. Again, a noun or noun phrase can function as object of a verb. Object is defined majorly as the receiver of the action from the verb or from the subject. And that is, in most cases, we call it the sufferer of the action. Example here is Michael killed our goat. Michael killed our goat. What suffers from the action of killing is our goat. Please note that the noun phrase that comes after the verb is not a subject. So we now talk of object and probably some other functions of the noun or noun phrase. So our God is coming after the action killed. And so we say it is the noun phrase that is suffering from the action, and so it becomes the object of the verb killed. Another example I have given, the governor loves his people. The governor loves his people. His people is the noun phrase that is underlined because it is coming after the verb loves. So it is suffering from the action of the governor, which is love. And so the governor loves his people, object of the verb loves. Again, it can function as the object to a preposition. It now functions as the object to a preposition. The first example I gave, where we're just looking at the types of noun phrases that we have, examples of noun phrases, I gave something like by that great river. I told you that we'll look more closely at that. Now let us look at the object to a preposition. A preposition is a word that shows the relationship between two objects or two items. You can say in my pocket, underneath the bed, and so on. So when we look at the preposition, we're talking in terms of words like by, in, under, above, of, below, between, betwixt, and such other one, along, with, and so on, accompanied by, accompanied with. Okay, now the example I have here is by the flower bed. By the flower bed. So by is the prepositional element that we call prepend, while the completive is the flower bed, which is a noun phrase. Again, we have another example, beside your table. Beside your table. Beside your table. Please, let us note this, and you may note any question that you have and forward it to the teacher. Again, the noun or noun phrase can function as complement in a sentence. Complement is a completive part of a sentence that is used to complete the meaning of that sentence. However, note please that before you can have a complement in any sentence whatsoever, the verb must not have any action The verb will be just a linking verb, a verb that links the first part to the other part of the sentence. There will not be any action whatsoever in the verb. If there is an action, you're talking of an object, not a complement. And a complement can either be a subject complement or an object complement. Let me give an example of a complement. John is a fearless man. John is a fearless man. Now, if you look at it, the verb here is, is. Now, it's a simple question. Who is a fearless man? John. Who is John? A fearless man. You can see that both complement each other. So while John is a noun and it is acting as a subject of the sentence, a fearless man is a noun phrase acting as a complement to the subject, John. So the underlined becomes a noun phrase that's functioning as complement to the subject of the sentence, John. We have another example to indicate what complement is. We are children. We are children. What are we? Children. Who are children? We. So we are children. Please check carefully. I have another example because I've given 4 examples here to indicate what complement is. The students elected Mrs. Adeneye best teacher. The students elected Mrs. Adeneye best teacher. The first 2 examples I've given will they indicate the complement to the subject. I have explained that. Now the remaining 2 examples will indicate the complement to the object. Here in the first sentence there, the students elected Ms. Adeneye best teacher. We realize that the verb here is elected, and Ms. Adeneye as a noun, or what we regard as a noun phrase, will qualify as the object of the verb elected. While best teacher, the underlined, will now be complement to Mrs. Adeneye, because we have the question, who was elected best teacher? You tell me, Mrs. Adeneye. What was Mrs. Adeneye elected as? You give me best teacher. So best teacher becomes complement to Mrs. Adeneye, which happens to be the object of this sentence. Another example for that is the people made Paul a reverend. The people made Paul a reverend. The people made Paul a reverend. So a reverend here is complement to the object Paul, while the people remain the subject of the verb made. Thank you. The last but not the least in the functions of a noun phrase is apposition. Apposition. When we talk of apposition, we're talking in terms of 2 nouns that stand side by side to complement each other. But meanwhile, let me quickly point this out that when you have apposition, in most cases in the structure, there will be the one in apposition will be demarcated by comma, by the use of comma. And if you check carefully, you find that the 2 nouns that are standing side by side, whether in the subject position or the object position, one will be the noun, the name of the person, the other one will be the office, rank, or status of that person. And they stand close side by side. Whichever of them can come first. The status can come first, then the name follow. The office can come first, then the name follow. Or perhaps the rank can come first, then the name follow. Or it can be the other way around. However, the 2 will stand side by side, demarcated by the use of comma. Example here, Mrs. Kolaru, comma, the new director, comma, is a kind woman. Mrs. Kolaru, comma, the new director, comma, is a kind woman. If you look at Mrs. Kolaru, you realize that we're still talking about the same person when we mention the new director. So Mrs. Kolaru is the name, the new director is the rank of that person. So the new director underlined here will act and function as the apposition to the noun phrase Mrs. Kolaru. Another example is students like Mr. Ogutola, the mathematics teacher. Students like Mr. Ogutola, the mathematics teacher. I repeat, the students like Mr. Ogutola, the mathematics teacher. We realize that Mr. Ogutola is the same person as the mathematics teacher. But Mr. Gutola is a name. The mathematics teacher is status. And so, while the two stand side by side, we look at the underline, the mathematics teacher, as being in opposition to the name, the noun itself, Mr. Ogutola. Thank you. If you have any question on the functions of noun phrase, please forward your question and it shall be attended to. Thank you. You're welcome. The next type of phrase we're going to look at is the adjectival phrase. Adjectival phrase. Remember that adjective is a word that qualifies, and it qualifies nouns or pronouns. As I have stated in previous lessons, the adjective stands close and beside the noun that it qualifies or describes. So generally, adjectives are words that are used to describe or qualify nouns or pronouns. Please note, adjectives do not have any business with any other parts of speech outside of nouns or pronouns. So don't go picking on any other part of speech to align it with the adjective. As qualifiers, adjectives stay close to the noun or pronoun they qualify. For example, the beautiful lady desires to see you. The beautiful lady desires to see you. The adjective here is written in bold print. So beautiful is written in bold here to show that that is the adjective qualifying the noun phrase the lady. So the beautiful lady desires to see you. Another example, this book is a good one. This book is a good one. This book is a good one. Now, if you look at the word in bold, good, is standing beside the noun or the pronoun, let me put it that way, one. So we have a good one. The adjective there is good. The other example here is I met a hungry, impatient tall man. I met a hungry, impatient tall man. I met a hungry, impatient tall man. Even though the adjectives here are demarcated by commas to show different qualities, uh, we realize that all the words that are adjectival are written in bold. Hungry, impatient, and tall. Hungry, impatient, and tall. So adjectives generally are words that qualify, and they qualify either noun or pronoun being the same. Thank you. Let's go to the next one. The next type of phrase is the adverbial phrase. An adverb is regarded as a modifier, that is, a word or group of words that tells more about either a verb or an adjective or another adverb. I repeat, an adverb is a word or group of words that tells more. They give more information about one, a verb, or perhaps two, an adjective, or perhaps three, another adverb. Adverbs have nothing to do with nouns or pronouns. I repeat, adverbs have nothing to do with nouns or pronouns. So let this sink into our heads. When you're given the function of an adverb, you don't have anything to do with either noun or pronoun in the structure. Examples of adverbs include the ly, slowly, patiently, carefully, very, hard, fast, well, often, ever, always, quite, today, cowardly, and so on. We will talk more on adverbs when we revise adverbial clause structures. Till then, please keep on practicing. Prepositional phrase. A preposition is a word that shows the relationship between two items or objects. We have stated that before. Prepositional words include on, in, under, underneath, between, betwixt, above, of, over, inside, outside, along, alongside, with, without, beside, by, within, and so on. There are so many of them. Please, you can keep checking and adding more words to your own. Note that prepositions do not stand alone. I repeat, note that prepositions do not stand alone. They stand beside a noun or noun phrase. For example, by the riverside, in my pocket, inside the classroom. The noun phrases are underlined for you in this particular presentation, while the prepositional element stands just before the noun phrase. The noun or pronoun that stands beside the prepositional element is regarded as object to the preposition. I repeat, the noun or pronoun that stands beside the prepositional element is regarded as object to the preposition. Prepositional phrases function as either qualifiers, that is adjective, or modifiers, that is adverb. That is, they function either as an adjective or as an adverb. Please note that as phrase, the name remains prepositional phrase, but the function is that of either an adjective, which is a qualifier, or an adverb, which is a modifier. So what you now say is that it functions as a qualifier. It qualifies or it modifies. We don't say it functions as adjective or it functions as an adverb. Please note that. Let's look at these two examples that we have been given. The man in the green bus is whistling. The man in the green bus is whistling. Here we have explained that in the green bus, which is written in bold, qualifies the noun phrase the man. Please note that as qualifier, you cannot remove the prepositional phrase from the sentence. If you remove it, the meaning of the sentence will change instantly. It will give us a separate and different meaning. For example, in that particular sentence we are given, the man in the green bus is whistling. If we ask who is whistling, the answer will not be the man. If you give the answer as the man, you get it wrong, and that will be zero. So, who is whistling? It is the man in the green bus, not the man outside, not the man in the park, not the man under the shed, not the man walking on the road, but the man in the green bus, and not the man in the blue car. So, we know that there's no way we can remove the in the green bus, which is a prepositional phrase, from that structure so that we don't contort the meaning of that particular sentence. And the next sentence we are given, the man is whistling in the green bus. The man is whistling in the green bus. Deliberately, I've used the same phrase, prepositional phrase, and I've used the same number of words, but in different positions. The first one is the man in the green bus is whistling. The second one is the man is whistling in the green bus. So if you check in the green bus in the second sentence here, we realize that it comes after the verb is whistling. And so what it tells us is that the action is taking place somewhere. You can easily remove this one in the green bus and it will not alter the meaning of the sentence, because here it is modifying, just telling us more, giving us more information about the action of the man. What is the man doing? He's whistling. Where? Will not tell us in the green bus. So we may not really be interested in where the action is taking place. So if we throw it away, it will not alter the meaning of the sentence. What is the man doing? The man is whistling. And so the meaning of that sentence will remain as an adverb that the prepositional phrase is functioning as in this particular sentence. So here it is put in bracket for us, modifies the verb is whistling. Please note that when its prepositional phrase functions as the qualifier, you don't remove it from the sentence. It will alter the meaning. But when it functions as the modifier, probable that you may be able to remove it safely without altering the meaning of the sentence. The next one we're going to look at is the clause structures. A clause is a grammatical construction or a group of words that contains a subject and a finite verb. It is possible for a clause to be a whole sentence. It is also possible for a clause to be part of a sentence, which means that we need some other constructions, grammatical construction, to make the complete sense. And that is why we have two basic types: the main clause that we refer to as the independent clause or alpha clause, and the subordinate clause that we call the dependent or the beta clause. Normally, in my lessons, I give the analogy that every mother is a woman. I repeat, every mother is a woman, but not all women are mothers. Not all women are mothers. So if you call somebody a mother, definitely that person will be a woman. But if you check, it is not every woman you come across that is a mother. So by that analogy, every sentence is a clause. I repeat, every sentence is a clause, but not all clauses are sentences. Not all clauses are sentences. And when the clause is not a complete sentence, we refer to it as subordinate clause. I repeat, we call it subordinate clause. That is, it is dependent upon another set of grammatical construction to make complete sense. What do we regard as the main clause? The main clause is a sentence. So let's say a main clause is one that expresses a complete thought and that can stand by itself as sentence. I repeat, a main clause is one that expresses a complete thought and can stand by itself as sentence. Every complex structure or sentence will have at least one main clause, which will give the main idea of the sentence. Some complex sentences may have more than one main clause. In that case, each of the ideas expressed is as important as the others, and such main clauses will be joined together by the use of conjunctions. Remember all the conjunctions that we have looked at on the parts of speech. Maybe the and, maybe the but, the either or, neither nor, not only, also, and so on. So a main clause is one that expresses a complete thought, and that can stand by itself as a sentence. Subordinate clause. Since we now know that a main clause is a complete sentence, so let us now focus on the subordinate clause, which is an incomplete sentence. A subordinate clause does not contain a complete thought, and it cannot stand alone. Any subordinate clause must be introduced by a linking word of some kind that will signify to us that this particular clause is dependent on the main clause in the sentence to make complete sense. Here is an example. He heard that his grandfather was dead. He heard that his grandfather was dead. He heard that his grandfather was dead. In the sentence above, the main clause is he heard. The question now comes, what did he hear? The answer will be that his grandfather was dead. So the subordinate clause is that his grandfather was dead. The word that is linking word that warns us that this is going to be a subordinate clause. In the sentence, the subordinate clause is acting or functioning as noun, telling us what he heard. Now let me put this across to us, that when we talk of subordinate clauses, you should remember and note that every clause by itself is a complete sentence. But when we talk of subordinate clauses, the linking word that introduces it renders it incomplete. So if we look at that his grandfather was dead and we remove the linking word that, we realize that we have a complete sentence. His grandfather was dead, which makes complete meaning. His grandfather was dead. So, but because the linking word has been introduced, that joining itself to the other grammatical structure, it renders that structure incomplete. So it becomes that his grandfather was dead. You now ask the question, and what? So somebody will now say, oh, that was what he had. He had that his grandfather was dead. The sentence he had that his grandfather was dead could have been written as he had the news. He had the news. He had the news. It is easy to see that the subordinate clause that his grandfather was dead is grammatically equivalent to the noun phrase the news. He had the news. He had what? The news. It is therefore called noun clause. Subordinate clauses may also function as adjectives as well as adverbs. Let's look at some examples. What they were about to collect was exorbitant. What they were about to collect was exorbitant. Another example, whoever wants to succeed must work hard. Whoever wants to succeed must work hard. Again, that he could lose was unthinkable. That he could lose was unthinkable. We will look at this more closely after now. Let us take time off to look at what we call the clause elements. The clause elements are subject, verb, object, complement, and adjunct. SVOCA. Clause is the immediate constituent element of a sentence. That is, a sentence is made up of clause structures. It is made, and clause structures are made up of phrases, and they have subject and predicate. Thus, clause elements have subject and predicate. That is, it is divisible just like sentence into two parts, the subject and the predicate. Clause elements are named technically as S, V, O, C, A. S stands for subject, V stands for verb, O stands for object, C stands for complement, and A stands for adjunct. To construct a clause, there are 7 distinctive or basic patterns. And that means that whichever sentence type you decide to pick on, we can divide it or we can distinguish it into any of the 7 basic patterns that we have. And these patterns are 1, subject and verb. That is, you can easily divide it. Most of us know, as normally said, the shortest sentence in the Bible, which is John chapter 11, verse 35. Jesus wept. Jesus wept can be divided into 2 parts, even though it's very, very short. We have Jesus that stands for the subject and wept for the verb. And that's why you have a full stop at the end of it. Not basically that most commands fall into this pattern. There is a silent subject. When you make it silent, you is silent. There. So you give the command, the imperative, come, run, sit, close the door, and so on. So majorly the subject there is always silent, which is you. You're talking directly to somebody. And that's for the imperative, what we call the command. So subject verb is the first basic pattern, whichever sentence you want to write. I'm not saying that every subject and verb pattern will take just 2 subjects. It depends. I run, I have had you. I have had. I have had is an example. I is subject, have had to be the verb. You have 3 words there. And I must have had. I must have had. I must have had. I is subject, must have had. We have 3 words that will stand and occupy the place of the verb. So it depends on your own style. But know that the first basic pattern is subject plus verb. I've given an example here. Jennifer cried. The subject is Jennifer, the verb is cried. The second basic pattern is subject plus verb plus adjunct. Adjuncts are elements in the grammatical construction that you may do without. If you remove adjunct, it will not change the meaning of the sentence. Most of the time, adjuncts are prepositional elements that are functioning as adverbs or adverbials. So you may, because they give more information. So you may not really need the excess information from that. So you just remove them, especially when you're writing summary. So you remove the excesses and you face what you really need. Example here, we have said that you should note that in subject, verb, and adjunct, the verb could be intensive. That is the verb be. Example here, Paul lost yesterday. The subject is Paul. The verb is lost. There's action. The adjunct is yesterday, adverb of time. Okay? The third basic pattern is SVC, subject plus verb plus complement. And I've told us that in complements, please remember that wherever you have complement, the verb will be void of action. So we have the complement could be a noun or pronoun or adjective. So let's look at it. Example, she is beautiful. She is beautiful. Here, the complement beautiful is an adjective. So we should be very careful when we're writing our own. Note that for a sentence to have a complement, the verb cannot contain action. I've said that before. The verb must be a linking verb. Otherwise, what becomes obtainable if there is action in the verb, what do not have after the verb would be an object. Please watch out. The fourth basic pattern is subject plus verb plus object plus adjunct. Subject plus verb plus object plus adjunct. The object here is direct object. That is the particular noun or pronoun that suffers directly from the action of the subject. Here is an example. The girl took the book away. The girl took the book away. The subject here is the girl, which is a noun phrase occupying the position of the subject. That's the performer of the action. Took is the verb, and there is an action there, the action of taking. And what suffers directly from the action of taking is the book, which is another noun phrase, and that is the object because it suffers directly from the action of the girl. Away acts as the adverb of place. We may really do without away. We don't need it. What happened? The girl took the book. Where? Away. You can see. So away is just an additional piece of information which we may do with that. And that's why we call it adjunct. It is adverb of place, telling us where the book was taken. The fifth basic pattern is SVOC, subject plus verb plus object plus complement. Subject plus verb plus object plus complement. Here's an example. The boxer did Nigeria proud. The boxer did Nigeria proud. The subject is the boxer. The verb is did, which is the direct object here is Nigeria. There's action in do, mind you. So there's action in do. So we have the direct object is Nigeria, while proud acts as the complement. Proud is an adjective, so it stands as the complement there. Note the sixth pattern is the SVOO pattern. That is the subject plus the verb plus an object in the indirect position, then plus another object in the direct position. That is, we have two objects in this particular pattern, two sufferers. One is suffering directly from the action in that particular sentence, while the other one is suffering from a long distance from that particular action. It must be noted that if the indirect object is deleted, that is, if we remove the indirect object, that's the first object, the construction will still make a good statement. It will still make good meaning. If, however, you remove the direct object, then the meaning of the construction will change completely. So let's look at an example. The student bought his teacher a gift. The student bought his teacher a gift. Here is the subject that comes before the verb is the student. The verb in the construction is bought. The direct object is a gift, that is what the student bought. Then while the indirect object is his teacher, that is the one the gift is meant for. The first thing, the way you usually know the direct object is you look at the verb and question the verb. What was bought? In this sentence, what was bought? A gift. So definitely a gift becomes the direct object suffering directly from the verb bought. In the example, mother gave the baby breast milk. The subject is who gave the breast milk? Mother. What did mother do? Gave. That's the verb. Then what did mother give? What did mother give? Breast milk. The mother did not give baby, but mother gave breast milk. So breast milk will become the direct object, and the person or the object, the item to item that suffers indirectly from the action now, that is to whom was the breast milk given, will be the indirect object, baby. And that's the one that we call indirect object. So you can have as many examples as possible. I bought grandfather a wristwatch. As an example, I bought grandfather a wristwatch. What did I buy? A wristwatch. For who? Grandfather. You can see that the direct object here is a wristwatch, while the indirect object is grandfather. You can write your own examples and let us see how good you have been able to understand this. The seventh and the last pattern is the SVO. The subject plus the verb plus an object. A good example, the mistress disciplined the girl. The teacher flogged the student. We have so many others like that. John killed the goats. The prefects punished the students, and so on. Please note that the subject of the sentence comes before the main verb in the sentence. So your own job is to be able to identify the verb in any given sentence. Once you're able to mark out the verb in the sentence, the verb in that structure, the number of the verbs will now tell you the number of clause structures that you have, the number of ideas that are contained in that particular grammatical structure. So when you're able to mark the verbs out, anything to the left of that particular verb is a subject. So if you have 2-3 different verbs, note that you have 2-3 different ideas. Remember at the initial stage we have said that every sentence is a clause, but not all clauses are sentences. So it means that the number of verbs that you have will denote clause types. They may be complete sentence or they may be incomplete sentence. So where they are incomplete sentence, they become subordinate clauses and you'll be questioned on them. So that tell us the type and the function. So please note this. Subject of the sentence comes before the main verb in the sentence, while the verb is the word that shows the action that is contained in that particular sentence. Object of the sentence comes after the verb in the sentence and suffers from the action of the verb. I will entertain questions if you have any. The complement can be a subject complement, as we have been taught earlier. That's a complement refers back to the subject of the sentence. For example, John was made secretary. Who was made secretary is John. So you're referring back to the subject of the sentence. What was John made? Secretary. So that's the complement. Or the complement can be an object complement that refers back to the complement itself. That is, to the noun or pronoun occupying the position of the object. Here is an example. The class made John secretary. The class made John secretary. The class is the subject. Made will be the verb. John, the object that is suffering from the action of making. And secretary, the position rank to which he has been put, will become the complement, and it is referring back to John, who occupies the position of the object. So please note this.